Environmental, social, and governance, or ESG as it is summarized to. That's a new, bold, modern investment technique whereby members or participants in the private sector would buy use of their investing power. The private sector has a lot of money in terms of, all right, if you have a pension fund, generally speaking, what your pension fund does is it takes the money that you put into it and it gives that money over to investors, people who are familiar with the markets all around the world, and those investors would use your pension money, invest into some business somewhere, and that business, as it grows, would return your money, so your investment fund generally grows over time, and that's how you make more money in your investment fund, in your pension fund. Eventually, that investment, when it's paid back, theoretically should pay your pension. Now, some people have found out that it doesn't always work like that, but that's the general idea. So in terms of the amount of finances that the private sector has under its control, these financial institutes have a lot of money. So they have a lot of power, and they can then determine, as they are saying now, that they would only invest in certain things. If you tick certain boxes, if you fit certain criteria, then and then only will they invest. And the specific criteria that they're talking about when it comes to ESG would be, as you'd expect, environmental, social, and governance. Those three areas. And, you could think about that. You could look at that and think that's a very good idea. That would allow for the money spenders in the world, that capitalist kind of market, the capital market, that they would put their money behind things that would advance the species, advance humanity, which is a good thing, I would guess. So you could understand more and more people pushing for this. But on the other hand, what this also does is it puts an inordinate amount of power in the hands of the people who control the money. They already have other people's money. Bear in mind, when they're talking about this money here, it's not like their personal bank account. This is other people's money, people who have invested that money in hopes of it growing. They have the control of other people's money, and they could use that control to make things happen in various parts of the world. And are we sure that we want to give that control to members in a boardroom? Because the idea usually is that environmental, social, and governance, those areas are handled by politicians, people that the citizens of a specific country vote for, and the politicians of this specific country would select based on the culture, based on the views, based on what the people of this country want. Then they would select the environmental, social, and governance policies. But no, the idea here is that the environmental, social, and governance policies can be known. The best ones can be known, and these financial institutes can pressure individual companies in all different parts of the world to enact certain policies, and then they would get money. And that's the pressure being given by that. According to how you view the whole modernization and globalization idea, you might have one view or the other of this. But in Trinidad and Tobago now, we're seeing that several members in our private sector are asking for ESG. They're like, yes, please give us some more ESG standards. We want that. So we're going to dive into that and see where the fine line is there. Should this be something that we as citizens in this country should be asking for? Yes, we do want more ESG in this country. Or is this something that we're looking at different areas in the world and seeing, all right, certain places in the world, they already decided that this does not work too well for them. So maybe we should hold up on this, encouraging this in our country too. Let's dive into that. Before we dive in that, as per usual, hit that like button if you have not done that yet. Leave a comment. Tell me what you think. Tell me what you think about the environmental, social, and governance standards. Do you think this is something that should be adopted across the world? Or do you think this is something that we really should be putting the brake on? If you are not yet subscribed to the channel, please do subscribe. That would be much appreciated. And as I said, yes, hit that like button. I'll give you a couple seconds to do that now. It really does help with the algorithm. So yeah, hit that like button now. Good. Let's dive into it. Time to take ESG seriously. ESG, environmental, social, and governance, may just be an esoteric term that's being bantered about with no real action in TNT, says businessman John Haddad. The trend is a lot of talk and no action. NATO, no action, talk only, and we want to see a lot more, he said, following which he received an applause from the audience while speaking on a panel at the Institute of Chartered Accountants of TNT's 13th Annual International Finance and Accounting Conference 2022 held at the Hyatt Regency this week. We are still building our business on borrowed money, and we deal with every bank everywhere, and we deal with suppliers abroad and locally, and with customers in almost every continent, and I have to say there are a few very disappointing things. No one has ever asked us, where is your ESG policy? Not even a local bank has said to us, do you have something in place? Are you even speaking about it? What are you doing? Haddad explained. This year's theme was Beyond Finance, Driving Sustainability, Reinforcing Trust. It was derived from a 3-year strategic plan of ICATT, which sought to address and provide a myriad of practical and theoretical solutions to the global, regional, and local trends impacting the profession. So, he is saying that no one is asking them about their ESG policy, and he basically is saying he wants that. He wants these banks, whether they be foreign or local, before they go to borrow from them, before they go to get something, before they go to source some material from these companies, ask about the ESG policies, make sure that they have something in place. And the idea here is to encourage responsible capitalism. So it's not just that you're focused on the capital market, it's not just you're focused on gaining profit, but you're focused on doing better for your country as well. And you could understand why people would be looking at this. We're not just interested in whether this is going to be profitable in cash. We want to know whether it's going to be profitable in terms of the development. But you see, the issue with this is profitability in cash is something very easy to determine. That's easy. You look at the balance book, how much is coming in, how much is going out, and we determine this. Fine. But a lot of these ESG policies aren't based on something that could be as easily calculatable or something that is as clearly objective as your profitability. Some of it is based on objective standards. Okay, many people would say that it's based on science and the science says this, but I would hope that, especially with the last 2 years that passed, with the pandemic that passed recently, we'd have some appreciation that the science doesn't tell us what to do. The science hopefully gives us a clear picture of what is there, but in terms of what we should do with that information, that's not science. Science does not tell us that. Those are political decisions. So, okay, the science may be saying one thing about the environment, the science may be saying that this is cooling, this is heating up, but what we do with that information is a political decision by the very nature of it. The science doesn't say what is supposed to be done unless your science is religious in nature. So you could understand then the problem some people have, where what you're asking for here is political policies decided by capital markets. Do we want political policies in Trinidad and Tobago being decided by HADCO, which is the company that he runs? Do you want your distributors of food telling you how you should live your life environmentally, socially, and the kind of governance policies we have? Or is that an avenue of life that we want exclusively dealt with by elected leaders? He said their suppliers, who are multinationals, have very strong ESG policies, but when dealing with companies in lesser developed countries, pertinent questions are not asked, nor is there insistence on some of the things which need to be done within their own territories. So what makes that different? That is almost a breach of ESG. I want you to challenge us. I want you to tell us that you want us to behave in a particular way, and not necessarily maybe give us a timeline. Work with us, but at the end of the day, ask the necessary questions, Haddad said. In sharing his own perspectives about what could be done on a wide scale to accelerate the adoption of ESG in this country, Haddad advised there should be more focus on environmental protection. And while he noted there are many things TNT gets right, there still remains some level of illicit or non-compliant behavior. And okay, on the environmental side, that gets very appealing. So basically, the idea might be that you're not going to invest. So what ESG does in some cases is that these financial companies, the reality is when you actually dig down into it, there are about 3 or 4 massive investment companies in the world that handle the vast majority of the world's finances. So yeah, you give your money to your personal pension fund in whatever institute you have there, but that fund invests into another fund, which invests into something else, which ultimately is going to invest into BlackRock, one of the massive financial controllers of the world. And what would be happening there is this whole pool of investment capital around the world would not be used on anyone who isn't meeting these ESG standards. So let's say it's an environmental standard. Okay, are you still going to drill for new oil? Are you going to be very much involved in the fossil fuel industry? Well, then you cannot get any money borrowed. And that isn't based on anything legal. That is just based on a policy within that financial market. And that's something that many people disagree with. They don't think that these individual investment companies should be making that kind of policy decision, especially with the fact being they aren't using their own capital. This isn't like they're using their pocket change. They're using the investment money of pension funds around the world. They are forcing people to make decisions based on their worldview using the power of the money of small men across the entire world. Are you sure that's something you want? Look at this article over there in the United States, right? A Reuters article. The challenge of investing in the face of state anti-ESG legislation. Interest in environmental, social, and governance investing has exploded in recent years and at the same time has garnered the attention of global regulators. Given the ambiguities in terminology around ESG, certain global regulators are concerned that investment managers may be greenwashing their investment products or overemphasizing the ESG features of these products. So here's the thing. If what you're looking for in terms of determining a good investment isn't just the profitability, it's how green something is or how environmentally friendly something is, well, someone could put on the airs, the facade of being very environmentally friendly, understanding that that's the primary thing you're looking at. Even on the social side, people could give the impression of being very socially progressive and compliant just for the sake of getting that money. It's a widely known thing that people fake some of these things. FTX, a recent Forex, well, not exactly Forex, but a fintech company handling mostly cryptocurrency, mostly that online money, they were really into the whole ESG kind of idea. They were out there investing in environmental causes. They were investing in lots of social causes. They were saying that all of their profits, they were looking to turn it over to social and governance causes. And on the governance side, they were really investing in the US politics. And then to know that a couple months down the road, the founder, owner, chair of that company was actually basically running a scam. And the whole company folds up. But that could have happened because he was on the right side of the whole ESG ideology. He was seeing the right things to the right cameras. In Europe, ESG investment products are subject to disclosure requirements coming from the Sustainable Financial Disclosure Regulation, and the US Securities and Exchange Commission has proposed its own rules regarding the disclosures required for US mutual funds and conditions under which such funds can adopt names suggesting an ESG focus. In recent months, this regulatory interest has broadened to include individual states that open their own front with respect to the regulation of ESG investing. Some of these states are using their legislative power to limit ESG investing, citing concerns that ESG investing is putting policy and social objectives ahead of financial objectives, or even concerns relating to the impact of ESG investing could have on their local economies. Several states have proposed or adopted new legislation that would prohibit or significantly limit their state governments from investing in ESG strategies or from doing business with financial institutions that adopt specific ESG policies, anti-ESG bills. So any company that has these ESG policies, certain states in the United States have passed legislation that they are forbidding the state from doing business with these companies, because they're saying these companies, one, are bypassing their fiduciary duties. They aren't going on just the monetary basis of this. And the problem with that is you could open the door for all kind of strange little corrupt things, because these people aren't looking out for the best financial interest of the company. And if that's not legally the requirement they have, then they can look out for basically any interest after that. What's to say that, oh, they are really so caring, they're just going to look out for environmental, social, and governance policies? And then also, when it comes to that social side, there are social aspects that may be a common norm for some of the people that may be making some of these ESG policies, but may not be a norm for the places that they may be looking to do this investment in. And do we want that one-sided monetary pressure coming from large multinational corporations on our social setup in our country? In a small island like Trinidad and Tobago, we do not have the same moral and social standards as everywhere in the world. Qatar is showing this right now. Qatar doesn't have the same moral standards as everywhere in the world. Are we saying that we would like for these ESG companies, the board members on these companies that determine these ESG policies, these board members are the right ones to determine the social policies for every country in the world? And tell me how that is anything other than colonialism by another name. That sounds like the very same intent of colonialism. We know best. We know what are the social and governance policies that these simple savages should enact. So if they want our investment capital, then they must enact these policies. And when I say our investment capital, it's a lot of the time their very same investment money, their capital that they gave to us for us to invest in the best way to make back their money for them. Remember, the money they have is other people's money that the other people are trying to make maximum money on. And they are saying we aren't looking for the areas that would make maximum money. We're looking for the areas that would best uphold our environmental, social, and governance policies. Are we sure that's something that we want? Florida Governor Ron DeSantis bans ESG agenda from state pension investments. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis has banned the state's pension funds from considering so-called environmental, social, and governance standards known as ESG when making investments for retirees. DeSantis, who has frequently blasted businesses for engaging in woke politics, is chairman of Florida's 3-member state board of administration and had personally backed a resolution imposing the ban that passed on Tuesday. That was passed on Tuesday. The resolution directs fund managers to instead invest state resources in a way that prioritizes the highest return on investment, without considering what DeSantis described as the ideological agenda of ESG guidelines. And that's the thing. This isn't an objective standard. This isn't something that, okay, we have studied this and we know that without a shadow of a doubt just how gravity pulls everything down once it's within the Earth's sphere, that all these ESG policies, these are the outcomes that are going to be caused by these ESG policies. No, not really. There are ideological bends in this. There are some people who have certain ideological beliefs and attempt to push those beliefs through the ESG policies. And when we are seeing in our local market here in Trinidad and Tobago that our business leaders are asking for these policies to come here, are we sure that's what we want? Do we want it to be that all of the local Trinidad companies are going to all of a sudden seem like they're leaning into that American lean of woke politics, and that's everything that they're pushing, and they're pushing that because that's the way they get their investment capital from outside? So every company that gets the foreign investment in Trinidad and Tobago is all of a sudden going to start to push what might be considered by some as the woke political agenda. Is that something we want to see on the Trinidadian landscape, or do we prefer let's just leave it as is and allow the members of a civilization, the members of this population within this society, these people get to determine the kind of social norms and standards they want, not the big money from outside? No, we get to determine that. And basically what the local businessman was saying is they were still getting the investment capital. They just were not getting the standards. To me, that sounds like a good idea. If you want better environmental, social, and governance standards, vote for it. That's what you vote for in your country. You vote for politicians who go there to make policy about your environmental, social, and governance standards. I do not want people who I have no option in voting for. I have no option in recalling. I cannot go and pick it at their office. They're somewhere in a multinational penthouse office in London, and they are determining our environmental, social, and governance policies in Trinidad and Tobago. That does not sound like a good idea to me. That's all I have for now. That's all I have for now, though. Tell me what you think. Do you think that you want these ESG policies to be coming from the business sector, from the private sector, to, really push this social change and governance change in this country? And that's what is going to lead a positive change in Trinidad and Tobago? Or do you squint at it too, like I do? Do you have a less positive view of this? And maybe we should be holding up a little bit, seeing how some of these things actually play out and getting the investment without all the strings attached. Tell me what you think. That's all I have for now. I hope you're educated, informed, or entertained, and I will see you in the next video.